I better call Kevin and tell him I won't be attending the opera. There's someone else I'd rather hear sing.
Oh, damn!
This is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's Andy Samberg's hard-hitting and often absurd procedural police comedy. It's fast, it's quick, it's witty. When this show starts cooking, it's hard to find anything funnier on primetime television.
Nine-Nine!
The show features a star-studded cast of brilliant comedic performers like Andy Samberg, Joe Latruglio, Chelsea Peretti, and Terry Crews. The show was created by Michael Schur, who co-created Parks and Rec, and Dan Gore, who used to write for Conan O'Brien and The Daily Show. Despite Brooklyn Nine-Nine's complete saturation of comedic talent oozing out of every pore of this production, the thing that makes the show work so well is that it takes itself just as seriously as any police procedural. The show is a constant reminder that comedy and drama aren't just connected, they're almost siblings. Today, we're going to take a look at an episode that exemplifies this concept to a near perfect degree. That episode, Season 5, Episode 14, The Box. The episode starts off with the introduction of Philip Davidson, played by Sterling K. Brown. And if you're familiar with his work, you know that Sterling K. Brown is a solid performer when it comes to delivering a dramatic performance. In fact, he was nominated for an Emmy Award in his performance in this episode. This guy understands the assignment. He's immediately introduced to the audience as
the dentist who murdered someone. Spoiler alert, they think you did it.
and is escorted to the interrogation room. In just 40 seconds, the show lets you know exactly who this guy is, what is going on, and why we should care about the character. It's brevity at its finest, and a good example of how efficient the writers are at getting an episode started. In the next scene, we see Andy Samberg's detective Jake Peralta setting up an interrogation room, followed by the entrance of Captain Ray Holt, played by Andre Braugher. Andre Braugher is an extremely talented dramatic performer. He has a BA in theater from Stanford University, and he is a Juilliard graduate. Hiring actors like this is a huge reason Brooklyn Nine-Nine is so successful. Absurdist comedy is like flying a kite. Without a string, the kite would just fly off into the wild blue yonder, never to be seen again. The string allows this comedy kite to tether itself to something that allows us to control it. In this case, Brooklyn Nine-Nine's kite is tethered to rich dramatic performances from classically trained actors who facilitate the execution of well-timed and well-paced humor throughout the episode. The way the show introduces stakes is more often than not a little ham-fisted. However, it fits with the show's farcical nature. I mean, they really spelled this out for you with this dialogue between Peralta and Captain Holt. But time is precious in a 22-minute show, and every second matters. Rather than spending time delivering this dialogue in some clever or drawn-out way, Brooklyn Nine-Nine just lays it all out there. As the scene plays out, we get this great line from Captain Holt.
Do you know what I miss most about being a detective? A good interrogation, breaking suspects down.
This is an extremely important line because it cements Captain Holt's motivations inside of an emotional state of being. In this case, it's nostalgia for the old days of interrogating suspects. Cementing characters' motivations inside of an emotion or a philosophy helps drive comedy because it gives our characters something to fall back on should something get too out of hand or too ridiculous. In the case of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, it gets ridiculous often. Okay, now we have our characters' motivation, anchored our comedy and emotion, and created some pretty high stakes. This episode can finally start cooking, and it really kicks itself into gear quickly. It's important to note the setting here as well. The episode takes place almost entirely inside of this interrogation room. This not only saves the production money and time by not having to move the camera and crew from location to location, it also serves the plot of the episode by placing our characters in an environment that they can't really leave. It's essentially forcing these characters to interact with one another, which serves to heighten the drama of the episode. These cops have their man, and all they need is a confession. The rest of the episode takes place over, well, let's just call them beats. In the first beat, Holt and Peralta enter the interrogation room and set into motion a three-way power triangle that will continue to rotate throughout the episode. Everyone is trying to come out on top, to the point of disrupting existing relationships. Holt's plan to implement smart cop, dumb cop tugs at Peralta's insecurities surrounding his skills as an interrogator, but he goes along with it.
Me want to. Dumb cop.
I got that.
Yeah.
Well done.
Again, the thing that drives the comedy of Brooklyn Nine-Nine is the drama, and they pile it on pretty quickly.
Did you kill him?
No.
If you had said yes, I would have had you.
After Peralta's inquisition yields a little bit of success, Holt and Peralta step outside to have a quick discussion about the investigation. This is commonly referred to as resting. If we just blazed through the interrogation and only focused on what's happening in the interrogation room, this wouldn't be much of an episode. The writers break it up by resting the more intense moments of the show with a little exploration that happens outside of the primary plot of the episode. This does a couple of things. One, it lets the audience take a breather and catch up with the main character's state of mind. Two, it builds tension, allowing the moments we are inside of the interrogation room to land harder and resonate more with the audience. 3, it gives our characters time to make some more promises to the audience. Peralta wants to lie to attempt to get a confession, and he also brings up throwing a chair through the interrogation mirror. In comedy, taking a break from what's funny about something is almost equally as important as going for the laughs. It allows us to regroup, reset, and then resume. After another brief re-entry into the interrogation room, beat 2, we get another jab at Peralta's insecurities over oral hygiene before we rest again.
Damn it! Not only did we not break him, but now I have to go to the dentist?
But from here on out, it sets into motion a fun and games section of the episode. Things start to get pretty ridiculous through a series of back and forths. There's this name bit where Peralta makes the dentist say the victim's name in silly ways in an effort to get him to break. And then there's this.
2, 3, 4.
It's really over the top, but it's important to note that this episode earned its right to go over the top by taking its time setting up highly dramatic stakes in a grounded and emotional reality. In other words, they tethered their kite to something extremely solid and can now fly it as high as they want to because they earned it. The next time we enter the interrogation room, beat 3, the power triangle rotates again. And now it's the dentist who is interrogating the detectives. The dentist takes the detectives' repeated failures as an opportunity to further get under Holt and Peralta's skin, to the point of Peralta delivering the promise he made earlier about throwing the chair through the mirror. And now Peralta and Holt are at the height of their emotional conflicts. This is the all is lost moment where protagonists are about to concede defeat to the villain. We see this moment in just about everything we watch. In Star Wars, there's the point where Vader kills Obi-Wan. In Lord of the Rings, there's the point where Helm's Deep is about to fall. In Brooklyn Nine-Nine, it's where Captain Holt is telling Peralta that there's nothing left to do. Sure, it's much lower stakes than an orc army launching boulders into a castle built into a mountain, but the ingredients are the same. It's another example of how the show uses drama and seriousness to drive the comedy contained within its 22-minute time span. This prompts Peralta to deliver the last promise he made, the one about lying to the dentist, which of course backfires and heightens the drama even further, as it seems like this was the last weapon in Peralta's arsenal. The lawyer shows up to further drive the feeling of hopelessness and frustration, and we take one final rest. It's in this rest where Peralta and Holt not only seem to settle their differences, but also where Peralta comes up with one last plan to get the dentist to confess. If we weren't taking breaks from the action at hand, we would have never had time to explore these moments. He enters the interrogation room for one final beat and gets the confession. And the way in which he receives the confession is a culmination of everything that had come before it. Peralta proves that he is no longer the dumb cop by coming up with a plan to use the dentist's own narcissism against him. He still lies to him. Peralta knows that the glass award isn't the murder weapon, but this time, it's the right lie. This proves that Peralta's instincts were right. He just needed to figure out how to use them correctly. There's also a mirroring here between Peralta and the dentist. Peralta spends the entire episode wallowing in insecurity over his own perceived intelligence, and it's when he attacks the dentist's insecurities over pretty much the same thing, he gets him to react and confess.
Oh, damn. Oh, damn. Oh, damn!
And that is 3 dams.
It really puts a nice little bow on top of this whole episode. The episode wraps up with a nice little moment between Peralta and Holt, and that's that. The Box is an episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine that feels perfect because it's written with the same level of seriousness as any episode of the very police procedurals that it's a parody of. The stakes are high, the emotions are deep, and somehow the show delivers on the laughs over and over again. It's well-paced, expertly structured, and is a reminder that comedy is often serious business. And that's it for today's episode of Nerdstalgic. If you enjoyed it, press the like button down below. If you haven't done so yet, please also hit the subscribe, and hopefully, we'll see you all for our next video.